I had a boyfriend with an extreme need for control. When I discovered he had lost his memory, I promptly ran away. Who would have thought that 2 years later, I'd bump into him again at a reunion party with my fake university classmates? He didn't remember me, but after the party, he pulled me into his car. His dark, deep eyes held me tight as he asked, "Have we met before?" My expression suddenly tensed. Never. I didn't dare to let Humphrey Stanworth know that I knew him. From the moment we entered this private dining room, apart from the initial accidental eye contact, I had been avoiding looking in his direction. I was nervously playing the role of a loving couple with my senior in front of him and Annie. But I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was being intensely observed. It's impossible, I thought. He has amnesia, he can't possibly remember me. Thinking this, I felt a bit more relaxed. As the waiter served the food, everyone began to eat. However, I noticed Humphrey putting a dish with peanut sauce into his bowl. He wasn't here when we ordered, so he didn't know. And he's allergic to peanuts. Seeing him about to eat it, I couldn't help but speak up. "Oh, didn't I hear the waiter say this dish contains peanuts?" He paused for a moment and put it down. However, his deep, cold eyes turned towards me. My heart suddenly tightened. It was that familiar, intense feeling. "Don't you like it?" my senior asked, looking at me quizzically. "Just asking," I said, my gaze wandering. Unexpectedly, I met Humphrey's eyes again. Those cold, sharp eyes captivated me, leaving me momentarily bewildered before I quickly looked away. "Winifred, how long have you known your foreign boyfriend?" "I don't recall you mentioning him before," someone asked curiously. My senior lied effortlessly. "I supervised Meredith's dissertation. After graduation, it happened that her work had some connection with the alma mater. My professor asked me to keep in touch with her, and well, we ended up together." My senior's ex-girlfriend smiled with genuine happiness. "It seems you've moved on well." "Of course, so you can prepare your Christmas crackers for us," my senior said, looking at me with a gentle smile. But I knew he was putting on a brave face. It wasn't because I caught an odd look in his eyes. Tonight was his ex-girlfriend's hen party. Suddenly, a sharp chill ran through me. I instinctively looked in Humphrey's direction. The moment our eyes met, he gave me his first smile of the evening, but it was so eerie that it sent a shiver down my spine. Wasn't he supposed to have amnesia? Why does he keep looking at me? "By the way, during your 2 years abroad, did you have a girlfriend?" My senior's ex-girlfriend suddenly turned the topic to Humphrey. Hearing this, I held my breath, lowering my head and pretending to eat nonchalantly. Everyone else was also carefully watching him. Since Humphrey's car accident, he had actually become much nicer after waking up, but people were still wary of upsetting him. After a moment of silence, his cold, indifferent voice rang out, "No." Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, about to move past the topic when he continued, "But there is someone I'm interested in now." Feeling a piercing gaze, my whole body tensed up. My heart inexplicably skipped a beat, and my hand holding the fork trembled, causing the food to fall onto the table. "How careless, did you get any on your clothes?" My senior played the role of a caring boyfriend. Then I heard a meaningful chuckle. I didn't dare to look closely, fearing he might notice something. He may have amnesia, but he's not stupid. He's the smartest one here, and even the slightest detail could make him suspicious. After dinner, I thought we could leave. Usually, everyone would suggest playing games together. Not wanting to disappoint my senior, I had no choice but to participate. I assumed Humphrey Stanworth would leave early, as he typically disliked crowds and games. To my surprise, he stayed this time. In the game I have, you don't, the punishment was either answering truthfully or drinking. Due to Humphrey's memory loss, he lost many rounds, but he chose to drink every time instead of answering truthfully. Everyone felt this wasn't right, so a few people temporarily changed the rules to dare challenges. "What does the paper say?" someone asked curiously when he lost again and drew a slip but only looked at it without revealing its contents. He gazed at me languidly and said, "Hug the third person to my right for 1 minute." The third person to his right. Wasn't that me? My heart skipped a beat as I looked at him in disbelief. The others fell silent for a moment before someone laughed awkwardly. "What a coincidence, who wrote this dare?" How could Humphrey possibly? Since I lost, I might as well keep my word, he interrupted. Everyone looked at me and my senior, then back at him uncertainly. Humphrey, are you serious? Do I look like I'm joking? Well, he didn't. But Humphrey had always kept his distance from women, especially one who was already taken. Why would he suddenly act so out of character? Perhaps he had too much to drink last night? My senior finally broke the awkward silence. All right, it's just a hug. It's only for a minute. I'm not the jealous type, go on. Why did it feel like I had one but still lost somehow? Amidst the group's encouragement, Humphrey and I stood in the center. I didn't dare look at him, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it might burst out of my chest. The moment he embraced me, that long-forgotten sense of familiarity left me feeling dazed. I couldn't tell if it was nostalgia, nervousness, or a flutter of the heart. My mind went blank, and I couldn't hear what anyone around us was saying. All I could focus on was the rapid beating of my heart, which seemed to freeze my thoughts. Then I heard him chuckle softly in my ear, "Your heart's racing. Does your boyfriend know? Who was it that forced me into this punishment in the first place? How dare he tease me?" Knowing his usual aversion to physical contact, especially with women, I vengefully moved closer, resting my head just below his chin. "You're mistaken. That's your heartbeat," I retorted. I thought he would push me away, but he didn't react. The others continued the countdown around us. In the last few seconds, he suddenly whispered, "Lemon scent." I froze. Realizing he was referring to my perfume, I immediately pushed him away as the countdown ended. He looked at me with a mysterious smile playing at the corners of his mouth. I didn't dare meet his gaze, feeling increasingly flustered. They say that even if someone loses their memory, certain scents can still trigger deep impressions and potentially stimulate neural recall. So, was he just saying that offhandedly, or did he actually remember something? I can't have that. I'll change this scent as soon as I get home. It's all his fault for being so controlling before. What a peculiar habit, insisting I use lemon-scented everything, saying he liked me to smell the same as him. I got so used to it that I forgot to change it all these years. I made a quick trip to the loo, and as I came out, I decided it was best to keep my distance from Humphrey Stanworth. So I sent a message to my senior and slipped away early. However, I didn't notice that just as I stepped out onto the pavement, before I could hail a cab, a familiar Bentley pulled up at the curb nearby. Humphrey had apparently left the group as well, and was now sitting in the back seat. He rolled down the window and gazed at me languidly. What a coincidence. Need a lift? I looked at him nervously. He wasn't usually this helpful. No, thank you, I replied. His smile turned cold. No need to be so formal, Miss Culpepper. He even knew my surname? It seemed he had deliberately come to intercept me. As I was pondering how to handle this, he opened the car door. Get in, Miss Culpepper. Don't make me use force. The way he spoke, with that expression of total control, made me take a step back involuntarily. But this action seemed to anger him. He moved over on the seat and, reaching out, pulled me forcefully into the car. What are you doing, Humphrey? I'm your friend's girlfriend. His thin lips curved into a mocking smile, but the sound was icy and cutting. So what? So what? Indeed, Humphrey had never been one for morals. If I had known earlier what a beast he was beneath that human facade, I would never have been so foolish as to be taken in by his good looks. When we first met, he put on the air of a perfect gentleman, refined and cultured. I thought he really was that kind of unattainable ideal, sacred and inviolable. Even later, when we got together, I was smug, thinking I'd found myself a dream boyfriend. Who would have thought that in less than a year together, he'd show his true colors? Not only was he possessive, but he had a bunch of strange quirks. Suddenly it wasn't okay for me to even look at other men, let alone have any contact with male classmates for my studies. Miss Culpepper, haven't we met before? His dark, deep eyes fixed on me intently. I snapped back to reality, my expression suddenly tightening. Never. Are you sure? If we had, wouldn't you know yourself, Mr. Stanworth? Why ask me? He raised an eyebrow slightly, narrowing his deep-set eyes, his gaze lingering on me for a long time. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. Just then, I heard the voices of the seniors approaching. "Isn't that Humphrey's car? He hasn't left yet?" The voices were getting closer. I stared at Humphrey with wide, panicked eyes. "Scared?" A mocking smile played on his thin lips. "Beg me. I'm begging you." Perhaps I agreed too quickly. He seemed to lose interest. He lifted his cold gaze to look out the window, ducked down. I immediately crouched down. The seniors walked up to the car. "Humphrey, are you waiting for someone?" Another one chimed in. Could it be that girl he was interested in? Humphrey said nothing, which was as good as confirmation. The others were shocked. Really? They chatted for too long, and my legs were starting to cramp. I gently tugged at the hem of his trousers. His body tensed slightly. Probably annoyed at being touched, he quickly sent the others away. As soon as they left, I tried to make my escape, but he had already told the driver to start driving. Not knowing where he was taking me, I started to panic. "Mr. Stanworth, there's no need to trouble yourself to take me home." "It's no trouble." In the end, I gave him a fake address. He didn't question it and actually had the driver take me to the estate where my best friend lived. "I'm surprised Miss Culpepper doesn't live with her boyfriend," he remarked just as I was about to get out. I made up an excuse on the spot. "My parents don't allow me to live with someone before marriage." "Is that so?" In the dim light, his bright eyes looked at me. "Has Miss Culpepper never lived with anyone else before?" My heart inexplicably skipped a beat. Why was he asking this? Was he remembering something in mocking me, or just testing the waters? Actually, I had moved in with him less than a year into our relationship, into a flat he'd hastily bought near the university. He said his work was too busy, and if I kept living at uni, we'd hardly ever see each other. So, blinded by attraction, I agreed. At first, he was still very gentlemanly and gentle with me. Each kiss was just a peck, and even when things got a bit heated, he'd stop if I asked him to. But one time, he came to pick me up from uni and saw me walking with a male classmate. The guy nearly tripped and steadied himself by grabbing my arm. Humphrey was tense the whole drive home. He didn't say a word the entire way, and as soon as we got in, he dragged me to the bathroom to shower, scrubbing my arms until they were red. When I asked what was wrong, he kissed me fiercely on the edge of the tub. He'd never been like that before. Afterwards, he told me he was jealous and didn't want me to have any physical contact with other men. My best friend Meredith Elmsworth listened to my ordeal tonight and calmly comforted me. I wish I could be as composed as her. However, the next day at work, my boss informed me that a large sum of money was mainly for us to buy this small company, and he had already agreed to it. I was shocked and began to feel uneasy again. The boss asked me to entertain the new big boss. I was puzzled at first, wondering why they would ask me since I'm not part of the company's upper management. It wasn't until I saw Humphrey Stanworth in the boss's office that I understood. Instinctively wanting to run, he spoke calmly. "Why are you running away?" I froze and concluded, "Mr. Stanworth, why would you consider buying this company?" "You should know the reason," he smirked, his eyes fixed on me with an ambiguous expression. Afraid that people outside might overhear something, I didn't dare to strongly object and could only reply. "Mr. Stanworth grew up with my boyfriend. He calls you brother, so naturally, you're like a brother to me too." "Oh. Then why don't you call me brother and let me hear it?" He stood up and walked closer. "I had a dream last night." "In the dream, Miss Culpepper and I." He suddenly stopped mid-sentence, making me nervous. My heartbeat and breathing became unusually loud in the eerily quiet atmosphere. "Why don't you ask what happened between us in the dream?" "Haha, I really don't want to ask." "What happened?" I nodded with a forced smile. "We were intimately close." My smile froze. Knowing him, the intimately close he mentioned definitely meant exactly what it sounded like. I don't think it was a dream, but something that actually happened between us before. "So, Miss Culpepper, stop pretending. Did we know each other before or not?" I gritted my teeth, forcing myself to stay calm. "We've never met before." "Very well." A smile appeared on his lips, but upon closer inspection, it was cold and piercing. I didn't understand what he was trying to do. He had lost his memory, so why was he obsessing over someone he'd only known for less than a day? After I left 2 years ago, I secretly inquired about his situation. He had been in the hospital for half a month, and as soon as he woke up, his family transferred him abroad to recuperate. He had been gone for 2 years. During these 2 years, I truly didn't know what had happened to him abroad. I didn't even know when he had returned to the country. Humphrey Stanworth is the type of man who acts on his words. When he said he'd buy a company, he actually did it. Using the excuse of taking over the new company's work, he's been ordering me about every day, calling me to his side to help him deal with this problem and that. I've practically become his assistant. He even drags me along to client engagements for his own company, seemingly intent on occupying my time 24 hours a day. I don't have a life of my own anymore, not even time to see a friend. By the time we finished the engagement, it was already 10 p.m. He was drunk and clinging to me tightly. The waiter looked at me hesitantly. "Shall I head off then?" I nodded awkwardly. "Thank you for your help." Humphrey had driven us here without a chauffeur, which meant I was responsible for getting him home. With a sigh, I helped him into the car. I got his address from his assistant. When we arrived, I asked the doorman to help me get him upstairs. However, at his front door, I faced another problem. His home didn't use a fingerprint lock, but a passcode. Looking at the man who was completely out of it, I decided to make a few wild guesses rather than book a hotel. Surprisingly, my first try was successful. It was our anniversary date. Even though he had lost his memory, why would he use this string of numbers as his passcode? Too many guesses were running through my mind. I could only focus on getting him inside first. I had just placed him on the sofa and was about to stand up when he pulled me down, trapping me on the sofa. His overwhelming presence made me panic. "Humphrey Stanworth, get off me." He didn't wake up, just shifted and held me tighter before falling back into a deep sleep. I suspected he was doing this on purpose. Remembering he was ticklish, I tickled his armpit forcefully. If he was pretending, he'd surely give himself away. However, my hands just got sore, and he still showed no reaction. Could he really be that drunk? Recalling how he always reacted strongly when I kissed his Adam's apple during our intimate moments, I decided to test him again. I tilted my head up and gently bit his Adam's apple. Sure enough, he moved slightly. I was delighted. He was indeed pretending. Before I could expose him, I heard him chuckle softly, plotting something? The next moment, he suddenly lowered his head and sealed my lips with unerring accuracy. My eyes widened, my face flushing deeply. My mind was filled with the sensation of his rolling, soft touch. Gentle yet with his characteristic dominance. When I came to my senses, I pushed him away forcefully, but he gripped my wrists. I was furious. "Are you mad?" "I'm your brother's girlfriend." His expression cooled slightly. "I don't want to hear that again." "Think carefully before you speak." I was so angry my face turned red. I wasn't sure if I was angry because of his audacity or because he could kiss someone he'd known for less than a month, 2 years after. Seeing me silent, he straightened up slightly, leaning over me, licking his lips leisurely. "I've lost my memory." "Huh? How about this? I might forget things that happened, but I won't forget what was taken. When I kissed you just now, I was certain that we must have experienced something like this before. Many times." "Huh. To find such a dignified reason for acting like a cad, that's so like you. So, I'll ask you again, did we know each other before? You can ask me 100 times, I only have one answer." "Oh. Then how did you know the passcode to my home?" His strange, deep eyes stared at me, making me feel guilty. I just guessed." I pushed him away, tidying my messy hair and clothes, which led to a change of topic. "You. This is workplace harassment, I could report you." He smirked. "Go ahead, I'll compensate." "How much do you want? 1 million? 5 million? 10 million? I frowned. "You think I'd end up in prison? How cruel." He unexpectedly laughed. My face darkened with anger. He was so sure I wouldn't. "I'm quitting." After shouting loudly, I stormed out of his house in a rage. When I got downstairs, I found his driver had somehow arrived with his car and was waiting at the door. The boss asked me to drive you home. He really had anticipated my every move. Leaving a job requires a proper handover, one can't just walk away immediately. To prevent him from going mad and doing something crazy, I asked Crispin to pick me up after work every day. He didn't ask why and agreed readily. You helped me last time, so I must help you now. It's just a month, no big deal, he said. I still felt guilty and offered, let me treat you to dinner then? Sure thing, he replied. As soon as the car pulled away from the office, I spotted Humphrey Stanworth not far away. He stood there with a faint, gentle smile, but upon closer inspection, it was cold and chilling. Frightened, I quickly rolled up the car window. I heard Mr. Stanworth bought your company? Crispin inquired. Feeling nervous, I replied, yes, that's right. I recently heard something, not sure if it's true or not. Apparently, Humphrey used to date a shop assistant, and she dumped him. When things were tense with Humphrey before, due to the vast difference in our social status and because I was still in school, we kept things low-key. Whenever he suggested introducing me to his friends, I always made excuses. Apart from being forced to meet a few of his close mates, I hadn't met anyone else. So, Crispin didn't know about my history with Humphrey. I heard she's from our university and even in the same course as you. You might know her. Gosh, I wonder which girl was brave enough to dump Humphrey. With his temper, we're all scared of him, Crispin said casually, while I felt incredibly uneasy. Of course I knew her. It was me. I was the one who dumped Humphrey. That's why I couldn't let Humphrey remember the past. He's so obsessive, what if his love turned to hatred and he sought revenge? I'd be done for. After dinner with Crispin, he dropped me home around 9. All the way up in the lift, I felt uneasy, hoping someone was watching over me. I looked around cautiously but didn't notice anything unusual. Reaching my front door, I quickly went in and locked it. That night, just after I finished my shower, I heard someone knocking on my door. As I hesitated, Humphrey's voice came from outside, "Open up, it's me." How did he know where I lived? I walked to the door and said, "It's late. Do you need something?" "Open the door and we'll talk," he replied. I didn't dare. Who knows what he was up to? I couldn't let the wolf into the house. "Just say what you need to say like this," I insisted. He was silent for a moment. I thought I heard him cough softly, and when he spoke again, his voice sounded weaker. "I can forgive you for being with Winifred before, but you must break up with him now and never see him again." I looked at the calendar neatly placed on the shelf, which I had bought from an online shop a couple of days ago. It was indeed 2022. We had broken up 2 years ago. Who was he making demands of? He coughed lightly again, seemingly in poor health. But I didn't believe it. Was he playing the victim? In the past, when he forced me to do things I didn't want to, and I got angry, he would do this, play the victim to make me soften and forgive him. But this time, thinking of this, I became unusually bold. "What gives you the right to demand I break up with my boyfriend?" "I'm here to inform you, not to ask for your opinion," he stated. Is he mental? Angered, I couldn't help but open the door, ready to unleash a torrent of words. However, I noticed his face was bruised, and my intended outburst turned into, "You're hurt?" "It's nothing," he said, coughing a few more times, then putting on a brave face. I was half skeptical, but he did look quite badly injured. He had just been in a car accident 2 years ago. His brain couldn't handle another trauma. "Do you need me to take you to the hospital?" I asked. "No need. I hate hospitals, they always make me feel like I'll be abandoned." After a pause, seeing that I didn't respond, he explained with a light chuckle, "Maybe it's related to the car accident I had 2 years ago. I feel like I was abandoned in the hospital." I hesitated for a moment. "I have a first aid kit at home. Let me patch you up a bit." "All right then," he agreed. I turned too quickly to notice the slight curl of his lips, a smile of success. "Can't you just keep chasing after me?" I finally blurted out, unable to hold back my frustration as I glared at him. I was diligently applying ointment to his wound, but he kept reaching for me, leaning in closer and closer. When did you get together with him? Have you slept with him? Ahem. I choked, startled by his brazen question. My face turned crimson as I stumbled to my feet. You mean the forms? He remained nonchalant. Has he been to your flat? Embarrassed and angry, I retorted, so what if he has? If someone like you who's nothing to me can come over, why can't my boyfriend? His expression darkened slightly. I didn't know what he was plotting, but I had already softened and let him in. Stammering, I tried to usher him out. The medicine is applied. You should go now. He gazed at me intently, his eyes captivating as they flickered with emotion. I instinctively held my breath, sensing trouble. Sure enough, he suddenly rose and moved towards me. Frightened, I kept backing away. Until I could retreat no further, he trapped me between himself and the wall, grasping my lips as his dark eyes gleamed. Has he kissed you here? I stared at him wide-eyed, nervously swallowing. Should I say no, to let him think there's nothing between Crispin and me? But if I say yes, he might go mad. Meredith, are you asleep? I messaged you but got no reply. It was Crispin. Why on earth was he at my door at this hour? I saw your light was still on. Are you busy? Humphrey gripped my waist painfully, snapping me back to reality. His face was grim. Does he come looking for you this late often? I had no idea what was going on either. Seemingly displeased, he suddenly leaned in, grasped the back of my head and kissed me forcefully. His kiss was intense. I could only tilt my head back, forced to reciprocate as Crispin continued talking outside. But I couldn't hear a word. Meredith, you left some documents in my car. I thought you might need them for work tomorrow, so I didn't want to delay bringing them over. My thoughts had just drifted to the hallway when his kiss plunged me back into darkness. I'm worried someone might take them if I leave them by the door. Since you're busy, I'll just wait out here for you. Get rid of him, Humphrey murmured, nipping at my lip, half threatening, half enticing. My lips ached from his kisses. You're the one who should leave. Seems you want to continue then. His gaze traced my lips before moving lower. My heart suddenly tightened. Don't. Then send him away. He pulled me to the door, his dark eyes watching me. What am I supposed to say? If you can't think of an excuse, you can tell him the truth. Meredith? I heard your voice. Why won't you open the door? Meredith? He's quite familiar with you, isn't he? Humphrey remarked sarcastically. Apparently still unsatisfied, he punished me with a bite on my neck. Both our breathing had grown heavy, the only sounds in the quiet room besides two creaking noises. Sensing this couldn't go on, I quickly called out, Crispin, I've just had a shower. It's not convenient to open the door. Why don't you leave them outside? I'll come get them in a bit. I hoped Crispin hadn't noticed how shaky my voice sounded. All right then, don't forget to collect them. Thank goodness Crispin was oblivious. He left quickly. As soon as he was gone, Humphrey released me. He reverted to his usual composed demeanor, not a trace of pleasure in his dark eyes. I shifted to the side, maintaining a not-too-close distance from him, and said flatly, now you should leave too, shouldn't you? I'll give you one day to end things with him. The next day, Crispin called to tell me there was a problem at work. He had to go on an urgent business trip out of town and didn't know how long he'd be gone. He probably wouldn't be able to pick me up after work anymore. I had a feeling it had something to do with Humphrey, but there was nothing I could do. I could only say it was fine, holding back tears. Just then, Humphrey called. He had returned to his own company today, and new police officers would be taking over the case. What would you like for dinner tonight? He asked. Are you mad? I was truly angry, feeling it was impossible to communicate with him. It was the same 2 years ago, and now 2 years later, even though he had lost his memory and forgotten our past, he was still the same. If you won't say, I'll decide myself. My contrarian nature kicked in. I hung up the phone and immediately sent a group message inviting all my colleagues for a Sunday roast, as a last meal together before I left the team. As soon as work finished, I went out with several colleagues and actually saw his car. Pretending I hadn't seen it, I quickly pulled my colleagues away. Imagining how annoyed he'd be tonight, I enjoyed my roast thoroughly. However, when we came out after dinner, we found it was raining heavily. I saw on the weather forecast that this will be the biggest storm since the start of summer, one colleague said. We stood by the road trying to hail a taxi for ages without success. My colleagues looked worried. I was a bit distracted when suddenly a colleague exclaimed, "Is that the new boss? Or am I seeing things?" I was startled back to attention and looked where she was pointing. Sure enough, it was Humphrey. He got out of the car and his driver held an umbrella for him. He walked straight towards us, umbrella in hand. Is the boss looking at us? My colleagues wondered, but no one dared to go up and greet him. After all, they'd heard he was ruthless and formidable in business. He really is walking towards us. I wanted to run. But he was already in front of me. Why didn't you call me? He asked. What a strange thing to say, seemingly revealing a lot of information. My colleagues looked at me in shock. I wanted to explain, but he grabbed my hand first, pulling me into his arms with a gentle smile. Your hands are so cold. Meredith, you and the boss. At this point, there was no use denying it. It would seem abnormal if I did. I sighed. Ask him. My wife, he said. My colleagues gasped in surprise. I was so angry I forgot about his amnesia and pinched his side hard, but he didn't react at all. My hand just hurt. The rain won't stop anytime soon. I'll have my driver take you all home, Humphrey said considerately and gently. Everyone's eyes turned to the Bentley parked nearby. They had never ridden in such an expensive car before. Were they really going to be driven home in it? Somewhat disbelieving, they looked at Humphrey, only to find he hadn't glanced at them once, his eyes fixed on the woman in his arms, his expression tender. So their boss had such a gentle side? Thank you, sir. Wishing you great success in business, they called out loudly before excitedly heading for the Bentley. As for me, I was held tightly by Humphrey with nowhere to go. Weren't you going to take us home? I asked. You're coming with me in the other car. He pulled me into the Aston Martin. The car headed in a direction that wasn't towards my home. I felt a bit panicked. Where are we going? To eat. I've already eaten. But I haven't. I felt defeated. However, when the car stopped in front of his house and he calmly got out, coming around to my side to gentlemanly ask me to get out, I didn't move. I just stared at him silently, as if silently accusing him of lying. His expression didn't change. Of course we're eating dinner at home. I glared at him fiercely, still not moving. In the end, he simply picked me up and carried me into the direct lift to the parking garage. 10. The rain outside was getting heavier, and the thunder was far from gentle. I sat in the living room, idly playing with my phone, occasionally glancing at him in the kitchen. His expression was calm, everything so peaceful and beautiful. For a moment, I felt disoriented, as if I had gone back in time. If he had always been this gentle and considerate, perhaps we would have been married by now? Suddenly, a loud clap of thunder jolted me back to reality. He had somehow appeared by my side. Are you scared? I rolled my eyes at him without answering. The telly was reporting on the heaviest rainfall since the start of summer, with hopes that many areas hadn't been flooded yet. I felt a vague sense of unease. Would I be able to go home? As if on cue, while I was still having dinner with him, someone knocked on the door. He asked me to answer it. It was the security guard from the entrance, who came to inform us that due to the heavy rain, the surrounding areas were flooded. For safety reasons, no one was allowed to leave until the water level decreased. I closed the door and looked at him sarcastically. Happy now? He smiled. Indeed. Even the heavens are on my side. So, Meredith, perhaps we were meant to be together? I froze. The cheek of him. After finishing dinner and watching a film, he still hadn't arranged where I would sleep. I was desperately tired. When are we going to bed? His bright eyes looked at me. Are you willing? I meant the noun, not the verb. He got up and left the screening room. We need to shower first. You smell of Sunday roast. Now he's being picky about me? I followed him out glumly. He took a shirt and some underwear from his room and tossed them to me. You can either wear your own or these. I looked at him in disbelief. He even had women's underwear that fit me perfectly? You can think of it as me coveting you, planning all along to bring you home, so I prepared everything in advance. He admitted it so frankly that I couldn't even scold him. If you prepared everything in advance, why make me wear your shirt? Because I like it, of course. Shameless. His superficial bad taste was obvious, clearly intentional. I was truly defeated. Too tired to argue with him, I took the clothes and went into the bathroom. His house had more than one bathroom. When I came out after my shower, he was already done, leaning against the wall looking at me. You look lovely. Where am I sleeping? On this rainy night, of course we should keep each other warm. Humphrey Stanworth, I'm really tired. Seeing that I was genuinely in a bad state, he led me to his room. Just as I was about to speak, he interrupted. Don't worry, you'll sleep alone. I'll sleep in the living room. Are you playing the victim again? Such a big house, how could there not be another room? Again? He narrowed his eyes at me. I looked away guiltily. Sleep in the living room if you want. I won't lose out either way. As soon as everyone left, I immediately locked the door. I thought I was exhausted, but after lying in bed for a long time, I just couldn't fall asleep. Perhaps it was because the bed was filled with his scent? Remembering that I had seen a laptop on the desktop computer in his room earlier, I got up, turned on the light, and got out of bed. I intended to use his computer to watch some shows to pass the time, but I accidentally knocked over several papers scattered across the desk, with writing on the back. Curious, I flipped over one of the sheets, and to my surprise, it was covered in my name written over and over. I turned over another paper, and it was the same my name. I recognized that handwriting all too well. It was Humphrey's. But why had he written my name so many times? We had reunited, but was there something that made him love me so deeply? Come to think of it, Humphrey wasn't the type to easily let people into his heart. Unless he had regained his memories, or perhaps he had never lost them in the first place. Thinking carefully, now that we had reunited, some of his words and actions were indeed strange. The possibility made me anxious, and I hurriedly dropped the papers in my hand. Worried that he might notice I had gone through his things in the morning, I quickly tidied up the papers on the desk before going back to bed. The next day, before I had even woken up, someone was lifting me out of bed. Startled, I immediately opened my eyes to find myself face to face with Humphrey's chin. What are you doing? Wait, how did you get in here? He looked at me adoringly. Did you think locking the door would keep you safe? I frowned. I was wearing his shirt, and with him carrying me like this, I was practically exposed. He carried me to the bathroom. Hurry and wash up, I've made breakfast. I quickly pulled down the shirt, still grumpy from being woken up, and even more irritated by his words. We don't have to go to work, why do we need to get up early? Skipping breakfast is bad for your health. He thoughtfully squeezed toothpaste onto my toothbrush, and seeing that I wasn't taking it, he made as if to brush my teeth for me. Alarmed, I quickly took it from him. I can do it myself. That's a good girl. Suddenly, I remembered my suspicions from last night. If we had met and he now remembered everything from before, why had he been acting as if he didn't know? And what was the purpose of all these intimate gestures? He knew I had once abandoned him. Shouldn't he want revenge? Why was he being so gentle and attentive now, acting as if he loved me deeply? Or was this a different kind of revenge? I nervously finished brushing my teeth and went to have breakfast with him, silently watching his performance, trying to figure out what he was up to. However, his act was flawless. His attitude towards me made me doubt once again if we had ever been apart these past years, as if we had always been together, loving each other. What are you planning to do today? He seemed a bit surprised that I had asked him voluntarily, working from home. Oh. After breakfast, he went into his study, and I was left alone with nothing to do but scroll through my phone, waiting for the rain to stop. I told my best friend, Meredith, about the possibility that Humphrey had regained his memories. After hearing everything, she looked grave and advised me, "Your man is known to hold grudges for ages. We don't know how angry he might be now." I suggest you clear up that incident with your senior student and explain everything to him. While you're at it, act a bit pitiful, pout a little, be cute, and beg for forgiveness? Do I have to? Which is more important, your life or your pride? She had a point. In the afternoon, I made him a cup of coffee and, after giving myself a pep talk, I pushed open the door to his study with a sweet voice, "Darling." Before I could say anything else, I noticed that on the screen in his study, there were about a dozen people sitting in an office, staring blankly at the camera. I froze. Was this a video conference? I looked at Humphrey, who was actually smiling, his eyebrows raised, looking somewhat pleased. I'll come back later. Just as I was about to leave, he closed his laptop and came over to grab my arm. You didn't finish what you were saying. Why are you running away? Afraid of spilling the coffee? I didn't struggle, I just saw you were working so hard, so I made you a cup of coffee. The corner of his mouth curved into a smile as he took the coffee from me and placed it on the desk. The next second, he hugged me, suddenly being so good. Seeing that I was embarrassed, he didn't tease me further and eventually let me go. I told Meredith about this incident, and she called me a coward. I felt a bit helpless. She really didn't understand how terrifying Humphrey could be when he was angry. In the third term of our final year at university, I went camping with some friends without telling him. I thought we were all just good friends who needed a break, but one night, a male classmate confessed his feelings for me, and unfortunately, Humphrey happened to overhear it when he came to surprise me. He was furious and dragged me away on the spot. That night, his state was truly frightening. That evening, I spent hours trying to build up my courage, but I still couldn't bring myself to follow through with my best friend's ridiculous plan. Humphrey finally noticed my unease and asked with concern, "What's the matter?" I hesitated, then decided to tell him about Crispin first. However, after I carefully explained everything I had prepared, he calmly replied, "It didn't work out?" I was taken aback. "Did you know all along that Crispin and I were just pretending?" It was rather obvious. I was left breathless. So he knew all along. Was he just toying with me earlier? I had gone through so much trouble today, worrying he might get angry. I didn't want to deal with him anymore. After dinner, I took a shower, locked my bedroom door, and went to bed. In the middle of the night, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Suddenly, I heard the door open and held my breath in fear. What was he doing in my room at this hour? My question was soon answered as he got into bed. He moved very close to me. And then he actually put his arm around me. Your lack of reaction. Does that mean I can go further? He knew I was awake. And he was being so brazen about it? You've been off all day. Tell me why. It's nothing. If you won't tell me, I'll continue. I suddenly felt a cool breeze and snapped wide awake. Wait a moment. Tell me, he said, his voice husky. I want to apologize to you. Why the protest? Never mind that. Can't you just promise that you'll forgive me no matter what I've done wrong? He was quiet for a moment, then said, Your apology doesn't seem sincere enough. His implication was too obvious. I took a deep breath, tilted my head up, and gave him a quick kiss. I am sincere. Not enough. He lowered his head and silenced all my thoughts with a kiss that was gentle, lingering, and full of tenderness. At first, I could still react, but soon I felt like a fish out of water, completely at his mercy. Seeing where this was heading, I didn't forget my urgent matter. So can you promise me now that you'll never get angry or seek revenge on me? However, he thrust forcefully and asked with a smile, What promise? If there were such a promise, it could only be if we got engaged. He seemed insatiable as he kissed me again, Marry me, and I'll never be angry with you. I'll give you anything you want. I fainted. It was already noon when I woke up the next day. Humphrey Stanworth had, at some point, become quite anxious and was busy doing his work. Seeing me emerge, he was gentler than ever before, awake. I've made some food, go wash up quickly. I just asked the caretaker, the water outside has all been drained. If you want to go home, I can take you later. No need, I can get a taxi. Perhaps my intention to draw a clear line was very obvious, as his expression darkened slightly. But for whatever reason, he eventually agreed. I forced myself to have lunch with him, changed into my own clothes, and then made a quick exit. When I arrived at the local community center, the caretaker greeted me warmly, which I found puzzling as he had never been so friendly before. "Haven't seen you in days. Were you worried about staying at your boyfriend's place?" "Don't worry, last time was an accident. We'll definitely pay more attention to the residents' safety in future." "Can we restore your boyfriend's privacy?" "What are you talking about?" "What boyfriend?" Seeing that I genuinely didn't understand, the caretaker explained that a few days ago, my boyfriend had caught a stalker who had been following me home. After questioning him, the stalker confessed he had been following me for several days and was planning to make his move that day when he was caught. I felt terrified hearing this. When I returned home and looked at the empty flat, I felt as if countless eyes were hunting me. I couldn't stay in this place anymore. That very day, I packed my bags and moved in with my best friend. "Why didn't you stop your boyfriend? He fought with a stalker for you and even got hurt. Couldn't you show him some care? You're one to talk. Your bad advice yesterday nearly got me killed." "Oh." My best friend gave me a suggestive look up and down. Annoyed, I said, "Shut up, you." As if to change the subject from being the center of attention, I suddenly said, "He didn't actively tell me he did all this. Why should I expose it and end up owing him a favor for nothing?" When I went back to work, everyone started calling me landlady instead of my name, which was very troubling. It must have been those colleagues who went for Sunday roast with us earlier, coming back and gossiping. I explained countless times, but no one believed me. "Don't be shy, we've all heard about it." The other day when the boss was working from home and had a video conference, you saw those senior executives at his place, and you even called the big boss brother so intimately. This time I really had no way to defend myself. Humphrey Stanworth had called me several times, but I ignored him. After work, I went straight to the pub with my best friend. I never expected to run into Humphrey's mates there. Realizing that Humphrey might have learned about our situation from them, I felt furious. They didn't look pleased to see me either, given that I had left without a word while Humphrey was still bedridden and injured. "What's going on? Weren't you supposed to keep it a secret for me? Why has he regained his memory?" I demanded. They looked shocked upon hearing this. "He remembers? We had no idea." Then they muttered, "It's not our fault." "Did you think we'd want him to remember you? So, are you saying he never lost his memory? Was he pretending all along? Impossible. Given how much he fancied you, he wouldn't have willingly gone abroad alone and let you leave. When he first left the country, his state confirmed to us that he had genuinely lost his memory. As I was about to leave, one of them couldn't help but advise, Humphrey cares for you so much and treats you so well. Why must you leave? Even when he lost his memory, he dreamt of you, unconsciously mentioning your name. Moreover, during these years abroad, he's remained celibate for your sake. I didn't hear them and left with my friend. On the way back, my friend also tried to persuade me. I think they have a point. Humphrey really does treat you well. Perhaps he can be a bit domineering at times, but that's just his nature. He's already much gentler and calmer with you compared to others. I frowned. Whose side are you on? Just as we arrived at my friend's place, I saw Humphrey had already gotten there. Clearly, since I hadn't answered his calls, his VIP status had tracked me down. My friend quickly disappeared, leaving me to face him alone. "Meredith," he said. He looked somewhat pitiful, but I knew he was faking it. "Stop pretending. I know you've regained your memory," I said. He paused, then his furrowed brow relaxed slightly. "So, you're planning to run away again? When did you regain your memory?" I asked. "As soon as I saw you for the first time after returning to England. And you decided to keep fooling me?" I looked at him sarcastically. He frowned. "That wasn't my intention. I was just afraid you'd leave again, so I didn't dare to be honest." I was confused. I was the one who left without saying goodbye initially. Shouldn't he have been angry when he regained his memory and come to confront me? Why was his first reaction fear that I might run away again? I've been reflecting lately. It's not that my approach to you was wrong. You liked me at first, but later you always wanted to end things. I frowned at him, wondering what he was on about now. Meredith, I think I might have done something in the past that upset you. I can change. Can't you stay with me? Can we start over? You don't need to change. Just be yourself. Worried about falling for his act again, I quickly ended the conversation. My friend, seeing me return so soon, asked excitedly, "Aren't you here to get your luggage?" I scowled. "Are you that eager for me to leave?" With my resignation from work officially processed, I planned to pack my things and visit my parents at home before deciding what to do next. I saw Humphrey at York Railway Station. He seemed to have misunderstood my intentions, thinking I was leaving without saying goodbye again. He apologized and tried to persuade me to stay. In the end, I had to explain that I was just going to visit my parents, which finally made him let me go. In the days that followed, even though he knew I wouldn't reply, he sent me messages every day, asking what I was doing and telling me about his day. After being home for over a month with this daily routine, my mom asked if I was dating someone, noticing how I kept staring at my phone. Then I realized I was starting to miss him. That day when I returned, I sent him a message asking him to pick me up. He was waiting for me when I left the station. Meredith. I put my luggage on him and said, "I'm starving." He happily took my luggage and took me out for a meal. We naturally got back together, without any special formalities. After dinner, we simply went to his place with my luggage. He was genuinely learning to respect me more, though he still tried to control me in many ways. Time flew by, and 2 months had passed since I quit my job. Although Humphrey said I didn't need to work and that he would support me, I refused and started sending out my CV. One day, after finishing an interview with a company, I felt something was off with my body. Realizing that I had been sleepy lately, feeling nauseous when eating, and craving sour foods, I suddenly panicked. I called Humphrey, telling him I might have this issue. He quickly came to pick me up and took me to the hospital. While waiting for the doctor's results, I noticed he seemed unhappy and even confused. Later, when the doctor told us it was just anxiety causing an allergic reaction and not pregnancy, I was surprised to see Humphrey let out a sigh of relief, looking happy. On the way home, I brooded for a long time. Finally, when we got home, I asked him if he didn't want children. To my surprise, he admitted it. "I don't want a child to interfere with our time together. Isn't it good with just the two of us?" Seeing that I didn't respond, he hugged me tightly. "Let's not have children. Can we just have the two of us for our entire lives?" I felt conflicted. He said he would change, but his possessiveness hadn't changed a bit, had it? However, it did align with my own wishes. "All right," I said.